Hello, here is the video for the 7.07 lesson, How Big is Too Big? And as you're looking at the reading here, as you're following along, look at these cartoons on the side. I love these political cartoons. They're very meaningful for the topic that we're talking about with big corporations, and it just is really applicable and gives a good indication of the sentiment of the time towards some of these big businesses. Here we go with the reading in the blue box. Whether they were called business titans, captains of industry, or robber barons, the entrepreneurs of the late 1800s built enormous industrial empires, but at a terrible cost to their workers and competitors. Government attempts to regulate monopolies and protect consumers met with little success. Workers fared no better. Yet many of the same titans used intimidation and violence to quell labor unrest and use their vast wealth to fund libraries, research institutions, and colleges and universities. Goals for today's lesson: explain the philosophies behind the gospel of wealth, identify Horatio Alger and what he wrote about, and describe the government's efforts to regulate business and protect consumers. Make sure you go to lesson resources and get your reading guide and lesson answer key. And let's begin on page 500 of the American Odyssey textbook. Oops. Let's wait here for a moment. All right, here we are on the page we need to be regulating big business. By the turn of the 20th century, many Americans were riding trains, turning on electric lights, and talking on telephones. To some extent, big business helped make these advancements widely available, just as the concentration of great wealth and power made the rapid growth of railroads, steelmaking, mining, and other industries possible. The captains of industry and finance, such as Rockefeller and Morgan, argued that big corporations provided greater efficiency and stability and made goods and services available at affordable prices. But critics charged that as corporations grew and eliminated competition, they had little incentive to care about the needs of their customers. Trusts and monopolies, many observers worried, could hold consumers captive and thus were in need of regulation. The Interstate Commerce Act. Farmers depended on the railroads to ship their goods to market. In regions where different railroad companies competed with one another, they charged low rates. But where they controlled all the lines in a region, the companies charged crippling high prices. The railroads charged big customers like Standard Oil much less than they charged smaller customers such as farmers. Because farmers did not enjoy the same economic power as large corporations, there was little they could do but absorb the painfully high shipping costs. But farmers could vote. State legislatures responded to pressure from farmers by passing laws to regulate the railroads and set up state commissions to govern them. The railroads fought these laws all the way. The states were hobbled because they could regulate only within their own borders. The Constitution gave power over interstate commerce solely to the federal government. Congress finally addressed the issue by passing the Interstate Commerce Act, which President Grover Cleveland signed into law on February 1887. This measure established an Interstate Commerce Commission to ensure that railroad rates were reasonable and just across the nation and required railroads to give the commission notice before they changed their prices. The Sherman Antitrust Act. In 1890, Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, which outlawed trusts such as the one that John D. Rockefeller had set up for Standard Oil. The law stated, every contract, combination in the form of trust or otherwise, or conspiracy in restraint of trade or commerce is declared illegal. Unlike the Interstate Commerce Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act did not set up a commission, but instead left enforcement to the Department of Justice and the courts. Also, the new law did not clearly define what it meant by trust or conspiracy. Both the Sherman Antitrust and the Interstate Commerce Act failed to achieve their intended reforms. By the 1890s, only a handful of companies controlled most of the nation's railroads, and they used every legal and business tactic in their power to avoid government oversight or control. Businesses got around the Antitrust Act, which had failed to clearly define what constituted a trust, by replacing trusts with new management structures. For example, Rockefeller replaced his Standard Oil Trust with the Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, but his newly organized company business went on virtually unchanged. Wealth and philanthropy. In the decades after the Civil War, as the nation grew greatly in wealth and industrial power, the gulf between rich and poor widened. The titans of American industry, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and others, amassed huge fortunes. Andrew Carnegie argued that one way to achieve some reconciliation of the rich and poor was through philanthropy, promoting the public good. Carnegie did not like the term philanthropy and instead preferred to call himself a distributor of wealth. In an 1889 magazine article, Carnegie outlined a philosophy that came to be known as the gospel of wealth. He argued it was the duty of the man of wealth to become the agent for his poorer brethren and to use his fortune for the improvement of mankind. After amassing almost $500 million by the end of the 20th century, by the early 20th century, Carnegie distributed hundreds of millions worldwide. Carnegie funded libraries dotted the American landscape, giving people access to the educational resources he had lacked as a youngster. He ultimately provided the funds to build some 2,500 public libraries in the United States and abroad. He established universities in both his native Scotland and in the United States, including the Carnegie Institute of Technology, now part of Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. His generosity supported thousands of research scientists. As international tensions mounted, the Carnegie Foundation for International Peace promoted goodwill among nations. John D. Rockefeller also gave millions to good causes. During his long life, he donated more than $500 million, much of it to medical research and education. He provided funds to support schools and colleges for African Americans in the South, including Spelman College, a liberal arts college for African American women. Which opened in 1884. In 1892, Rockefeller started donating millions to a small college which helped transform it into a major center of research and learning, the University of Chicago. Other captains of industry became great givers, too, if on a lesser scale than Carnegie and Rockefeller. Cornelius Vanderbilt provided $1 million to found Vanderbilt University in Tennessee, which opened in 1873. James Buchanan Duke, whose American Tobacco Company made a fortune in cigarette manufacturing, left a large amount of money to endow the University of North Carolina that took his name. Leland Stanford, one of the builders of the Transcontinental Railroad and a governor of California, established Stanford University in memory of his son, who died of an illness when he was 15. Andrew Carnegie, in explaining his Gospel of Wealth, wrote that the surplus wealth of the few will become, in the best sense, the property of the many, because administered for the common good. With so much surplus wealth in his hands, a few Gilded Age business and financial leaders established charities and institutions that remain to this day. Their critics, however, charged that this philanthropy disguised greed, and that the captains of industry had amassed the money they gave away by exploiting the very people they later sought to uplift. Okay, and then I believe this is the last page of the reading, but we do need to go back and read. Yep, we need to go back and read that excerpt. Horatio Alger and the Dream of Rags to Riches. Shortly after the Civil War ended, a down-on-his-luck ex-minister named Horatio Alger was living in New York City. Wandering through the city slums, he was horrified by the plight of homeless children living on the streets. He decided to write a novel about them, one that, in his words, would depict the inner life and represent the feelings and emotions of those little waifs of city life, thus to excite a deeper and more widespread sympathy in the public mind, as well as to exert a salutary influence by setting before them inspiring examples of what energy, ambition, and honest purpose may achieve. Alger's novel, Ragged Dick, first published as a book in 1868, told the story of a boy who sleeps on city streets and works 14 hours a day as a bootblack. Starting at 7 each morning, Dick addressed his passing gentleman with, "Shine your boots, sir?" Despite his hard life, Dick keeps a can-do attitude and is eager to improve his lot. One day, when Dick bravely rescues another boy from drowning, a rich onlooker rewards him with a job in his business office and teaches him values like hard work and thrift. The moral behind the story was clear. For someone willing to rise to the challenge, selfless hard work would open the door to great opportunity. Ragged Dick found an audience eager for its uplifting message. The book became a huge bestseller. Indeed, Alger became the best-selling author of his time. He churned out more than 100 books with titles like Mark the Match Boy and Strive and Succeed. Millions of customers brought the books to share in the boys' rough and tumble adventures and especially their dreams of success through hard work. In the Gilded Age, as a few Americans accumulated spectacular wealth, Alger's tale fed the longing to believe that anyone can make it big with a lot of effort and a little luck. Horatio Alger's name has come to be associated with the Rags to Riches story. Here follows a brief selection from the opening of Ragged Dick. "Wake up there, youngster," said a rough voice. Ragged Dick opened his eyes slowly and stared stupidly in the face of the speaker, but did not offer to get up. "Wake up, you young vagabond," said the man a little impatiently. "I suppose you lay there all day if I hadn't called you." "What time is it?" asked Dick. "7 o'clock." "7 o'clock? Oh, I'd have been up an hour ago. I know that 'twas made me so precious sleepy. I went to the old Bowery last night and didn't turn in till past 12. "You went to the old Bowery? Where'd you get your money?" asked the man, who was a porter in the employ of a firm doing business on Spruce Street. "Made it by shines, in course." "Some boys get it easier than that," said the porter significantly. Don't catch me stealing if that's what you mean," said Dick. "Don't you ever steal then?" "No, and I wouldn't. Lots of boys does it, but I wouldn't." Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. I believe there's some good in you, Dick, after all. Oh, I'm a rough customer, said Dick, but I wouldn't steal. It's mean. I'm glad you think so, Dick, said the rough voice sounded gentler than at first. Have you got any money to buy your breakfast? No, but I'll soon get some. While this conversation had been going on, Dick had got up. His bedchamber had been a wooden box half full of straw in which the young bootblack had reposed his weary whims and slept as soundly as if it had been a bed of down. He jumped down in the straw without taking the trouble of undressing. Getting up, too, was an equally short process. He jumped out of the box, shook himself, and picked out one or two straws that had found their way into the rents in his clothes, and drawing a well-worn cap over his uncombed locks, he was ready for the business of the day. Dick's business hours had commenced. He had no office to open. His little blacking box was ready for use, and he looked sharply in the faces of all who passed, addressing each with, "Shine your boots, sir?" And that was the excerpt from Horatio Alger's book, Ragged Dick. As you can see, he is honest and good and willing to work. And let's go back now to the lesson. We have to make sure you've completed your reading guide and use the lesson answer key if you need help. Here are the Chapter 21 highlights. Be sure you go through those before you take the 7.07 quiz. There is a quiz and a graded assignment in this unit. So take the quiz, and the 707 graded assignment is about the Gospel of Wealth, Andrew Carnegie's essay that was published. This assignment will be done for the most part in a Class Connect. So please try to attend the Class Connect for the 7.07 graded assignment. For 2015, that will be January 8th. And also look at your Class Connect recordings if you are unable to attend Thursday's Class Connect, where we will complete the Gospel of Wealth assignment for the most part, or help you get started on it at least. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your American history teachers, and good luck on your 7.07 quiz and graded assignment. The end.